Okay, so here's what had happened. I was watching that game and I was pretty bummed by the fourth quarter because things look weird, but I was like having faith in Tom Brady as per usual. And can I just say that the news just came on and I could not give any shits about the news at all. They're like, oh, Ukraine, Ukraine. I don't give a rat's ass. Point is, okay, that game was insanity. It wasn't going right at all. And I'm like, I'm rooting basically for Tom Brady at this point in my life. I love Gronk and all, but I don't think Gronk's gonna play without Tom, so it doesn't matter. But as far as football on its own goes, I'm leaving with Tom Brady whenever he leaves. It'll still be there, I'm sure, but So I was cheering like a crazy person in that fourth quarter, and then they're like, I thought they totally won it. We're going to overtime. There's only like, what was it, 34 seconds left? And somehow the clock didn't go. I was literally cheering for the clock. I was yelling, "Go clock, go! Hurry up!" When they're running down the field, I'm like, "Go clock, go!" I don't understand. Now look it. Years ago, Giselle was like, "He can't throw it and catch it." I don't know. Ever since he went to the Tampa Bay, I felt like he wasn't protected enough. And I don't know. I'm not good at knowing all the things and all the positions and all the stuff like that. But come on now. You know? Because Gronk can't catch it and block. Put it that way. Um, so I don't know what happened. But it was very exciting and very thrilling. And I was all like super hyper. And I was like, oh man. But it's okay. Because he's just magical. He's magical. And I love magic people. And the people who make me sick in this world, and I'm happy for the Rams and the Rams fans, but the people who make me sick in the world, the people who just get happy when Tom Brady loses, or any champion loses, because you're just jealous bitches. Okay, I have nothing. I have no medals. I have no trophies. I have no awards. I ain't got no money. I will never sit there and be happy because some champion falls or doesn't win. If you see, I've heard people say it like, oh, Tom Brady or somebody gets taken down a peg, or it's a holiday. What are they saying now? Oh, it's a holiday weekend because Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady lost. It's like, you people suck, man. You people really suck. Oh, there guys there. The March Against Vaccines. That Robert Malone guy. I never listened to that podcast because I cannot. I heard some clips here and there. I cannot. I cannot. You don't notice how I always do that? I always end up looking in the other room. My eyes flicker, or lights flicker, or something happens where I'm just like, I always am thinking I'm not paying attention to something. So, but yeah, I can't sit there for 3 hours and listen to anything. It's hard for me. I thought after my blood levels came back, maybe I developed ADHD or something, but most of it I can't be bothered. I can't devote that much time to anybody or anything. It's not that I'm excitable and can't pay attention. I've always been somebody who needed to multitask instead of focus on one thing because I've always gotten bored. That's not attention deficit, it's just getting bored. But now I'm just too old to devote any amount of time to anything. Now, I'm happy with the game I just saw. Love Tom Brady. Kind of love Aaron Rodgers. They really should have stopped acting like he could have been the GOAT or whatever. He's very talented, but he just doesn't have the leadership qualities. And that's the thing about Tom Brady. Football is like war, and your quarterback is your general. And Tom Brady make a great general, and you would follow him into war. I don't think that Aaron Rodgers has that. You know what I mean? So, but they're both great. And I wish the world was the way it was a couple years back. But, alas. Alec Baldwin is trending, and I can't tell why, but there is a new Vanity Fair article. Now, I had been doing, in the beginning of this Alec Baldwin stuff, I had been doing some, quite a few videos on it, but once he did that interview with Stephanopoulos, or however you say it, and he, basically took away the only excuse I had left for him, which was that he hadn't had enough experience, with guns in movies compared to most actors I've seen. And like I said, I watched most of his career. I didn't watch everything he was in, but I've been paying attention to movies and TV and everything since the late 80s, so I've been aware of him the whole time. If I haven't specifically watched all his movies, I knew of them, and I didn't feel like he played a cop or any kind of gangster enough to have had the gun experience that the average actor, not only his age, but in the generation younger than him, has had. So my excuse was that he didn't know what he was doing, even though, yeah, maybe they should have been taught on that specific set. He didn't have the experience he thought, or a person like that would have, so he could have screwed up in ways maybe other people wouldn't have. But then when he did that interview, he kind of bragged about how all his experience, with guns and movies, and I was like, well, forget it then. You know what I mean? But also he was real blame shifting and just bad. And but there's this article in Variety. This is Variety, yeah? And it's talking about what I talked about. And I said, before all this other stuff, I said this woman was killed because of money. And I said how money, I don't know if it's specifically in one of the videos I did specifically about the Alec Baldwin thing, or if it was in one of my other rants about money and how I thought the pandemic was supposed to cure us of money and how money is the root of all evil and all this stuff like that. And I related it to this story because they said about the producers and how some of these producers, that it's not like the old days when you had, Metro Goldwyn Mayer and United Artists and Warner Brothers and, all the big studios, Universal, Columbia Pictures, and you had all the studios who, like, they were the big, what do I want to say? They were the big bosses, and you had to go to them to get your film produced. Over the years, there's been independent studios, there's been independent films, there's been Sundance, there's all these different ways people have made movies. So producers can sometimes be dentists. You know what I mean? It's just somebody who gives you money to make your movie. And that's been going on for a long, long time. But the thing is, what was interesting to me about this story was that it seemed like there were companies who were just investing in movies. Like they, almost like, what do you call those things? Where a group of people invest and they don't even know what their investments are. You know what I mean? Investment groups, and somebody controls the thing and does all the trading for them. They're just in the group. The individual investors don't even know what's going on. Off the top of I'm not a business person. Off the top of my head, I'm still flipping from the game. But it struck me that this is where the financing was coming from this movie and from other movies like it. And I said, well, in the end, if they're trying to cut costs, if they were trying to hurry up, so they had an inexperienced armorer, they probably hired somebody cheap. You know what I mean? If they were cutting costs, that's because producers and production and trying to keep costs down, because everything is about money instead of what it really is supposed to be about, which is making good films. And of course you want to make money, but if you're not taking the time needed when your gun's on the set and somebody dies, that's somebody dying because of saving money. That's what I said then. That's what I said a long time ago in one of my videos. I'll try to find out which one. But this article says, Russ producer's key advisor, her dad, pushed tax shelters and hid income, IRS says. Now, one of these, it was either Variety or the Hollywood Reporter or the LA Times, New York Times. One of them had talked about these investment companies before, and it was the Streamline Global. And I noticed it. I referenced it. And this is why the world is screwed up. The people who have the money are always making more money. They do it at the detriment to others. And this world is about greed, and anybody who's on the greedy side, if you're in that 1% and you're greed, and you're just trying to make as much as you can for yourself, and even if you think it's about your family and you think that's the most important thing, if it costs someone else, if you harm other people, if you are indifferent to other people's suffering, as long as you get yours, then you are the kind of people that we would assume go to hell. I don't know where people go. I don't know what happens after we die, but you're not a good person, and you're part of the problem, and you make the world an evil, shitty place. So, I don't want to read the whole article, but it says, I'll start from the beginning. For the last few years, Emily Salveson has been touting a new model for investing in film. In interviews and in public appearances, she has said that the model was able to solve the problem of risk for investors. It's a pitch that's been heard before in the film industry, and it tends to end badly. But her company, Streamline Global, has nevertheless come from nowhere to help finance more than 24 films in the last 4 years. She has done it thanks to provisions of the tax code that help wealthy clients defer their tax obligations. Now, rich people have always done this. Rich people have always found loopholes to paying taxes, and that's why they're rich and we're not. Okay? The average person who goes and punches a clock and works and tries to put away little bit by little bit and take care of their family, that doesn't even exist anymore. But they can't because of the greed of these people. The people who make a whole lot of money and are tax cutting. If I felt like these people then took their tax breaks and then invested in them, because that's what rich people could do. Yeah, you can get all these tax cuts, then you can take the amount of money you've saved and you could make a charity, you could make a foundation, you could create jobs. To me, that's what I would do. If I was a totally rich person, I was getting these tax breaks, I would turn around and take that money and do something to create jobs. Anybody can walk into and do. That's why when celebrities, I don't care if they're Democrats, Republicans, I don't care if they've been loaded and they've been loaded for more than 20 years, and I don't hear that they've got a factory making widgets and they're not hiring, thousands of people in jobs that, are entry-level jobs just to do it, just to give back in a way that might actually still make you a profit. That's why I get disgusted with the Chers and the Barbara Streisands and any uber rich person who's going to sit there and just tell you who to vote for. And I'm not saying Cher does charitable things. I don't know how much money she puts back in the community. She tries, but Barbara Streisand's a good one for just telling you, heart disease and, Donald Trump's this and Donald Trump's that. And the thing is, I was saying this about Cher and Barbara Streisand more than 10 years ago. So it's like with those celebrities who are constantly talking about politics, and it's like, why don't you, instead of telling us who to vote for, why don't you just go really help out, because you have enough money. I'm not even talking about celebrities who have $50 million. I'm talking about these people who have hundreds of millions of dollars and have done for more than 2 decades. Okay? I should be hearing about the massive amount of employees you have, people who are being helped out of poverty, people who are being helped with decent income by way of you. That's what I want to hear about. I don't want to hear you telling me who I'm supposed to vote for, or why this last president was lousy, or why this bill or that bill, or which congressman, or I don't want to hear that shit from celebrities that have that much money. Okay? Because rich people have been getting these tax cuts since forever. Okay? So they're still talking about this woman. Let me see what it's about. Like I'm saying, when you have, it's almost like the way movies work is there's a director. The director is the visionary. The director is supposed to be the visionary. Like I said, I don't even think that happens anymore. The director is the one who, decides. He's the decider of how things should look and everything else. The producer allows the director to decide that, because the producer is the one holding the purse strings. You know what I mean? So the producers are the money people, and the director wants to do this and wants to do that, but they can't if the producer says no, or if the producer won't let them. That's why in decades past you would have directors make this movie, they lived a lot, it would be cut up to hell by the studio. It used to be the studio. This is what I'm saying. The producers used to be the studio. Now there's still studios, but a lot of the time movies that aren't in the studio system, which there isn't anymore, but movies that don't directly start out as a production by a studio, they get all kinds of different producers. That's what I'm saying. It could be a dentist if you're making a really low budget movie. But the point is, though when you do it like that and you get a dentist, you're really controlling things. The dentist isn't telling you who to have in the movie. But so in this case, this is just people investing like they're investing in anything else. It's just other people trying to make money. Oh, what is it? Is it hedge funds? Is that what they call them? The ones, I don't know. You know what I mean, when they have all the big things. Anyways, so they're just investing like they invest in any other stock. They don't give a shit about the movie business. They're just investors. And when there are investors in anything, you know, if you have a clothing company and you're really successful, and then eventually you go public, meaning your company gets stocks and is traded on the stock exchange, at that point you have to answer to your investors. So however you ran your company before, if you cared about your employees and stuff like that, it doesn't matter anymore. You're going to be controlled by your investors. So if you have a star that you really love is your best friend, and you've produced all their movies, but then, you know, they grab somebody's ass in 1984 and that hits the news, you have to fire them and cancel them because it'll make your stock price go down. Doesn't mean people won't show up to see them in the film. That's not what matters to you anymore. It matters about your stock price. So this is why everything is corrupt and everything is bad, because the decisions that are being made in this world for the last so often is all about the investors and the daily stock market and prices going up and down. So in this case, DeSalvesen, an executive producer on the film, and her business partner Ryan Donald Smith have each been sued for allegedly failing to ensure a safe set. Here's my question. The tragedy has brought intense scrutiny on all aspects of the production, including Salvesen's proprietary financial model. This is what I'm saying. These people are basically investors. I wouldn't expect them to be making sure the set is safe. If they get sued, though, they're going to have to be the ones to pay for it because they have all the money. But this is the problem. Why are people doing business in this way? Why are they making movies in this way? Why are there these people who are the producers when they don't have... I mean, if you watch films, go watch a film. If you've got a DVD from the last couple of years, put it in, pop it in, and watch the very beginning. You're going to see, like, I don't know, sometimes I see like 5, 6 film companies. You know, the last one is probably people who started it, but in order to get money and financing, they had to go through this one and that one and that one. And you see, like, there's too many cooks. You know what I mean? There's too many people involved. But, you know, a lot of people, those are just money people, but they will be the ones who have to pay if they get sued, I assume. Let's see what this says. I'm jumping down. Salvesen is 36. As the Hollywood Reporter reported last month, she had a series of jobs before landing in film financing, including surf instructor, assistant at a rehab center, a job office of her father, tax attorney Kent Salvesen, and host of a YouTube show called Bath Time TV. This is what I'm saying, man. And I'm not blaming her and I'm not blaming him. But the point is, alright, Kent Salvesen, 71, her dad, is also a key figure in Streamline Global. He is formally identified as advisor to the company and helped structure the company's financial model for film investment. See, financial model for film investment. These people have nothing to do with film. Do you understand what I mean? They are not movie makers. They're just putting their money in. You know what I mean? That in that way, like, pretend it's like if suppose you wanted to make money and you wanted to make a movie and you're making a movie for maximum profits. You're not making it to be good. You're not making it to be visionary. You're not making it to be entertainment. You're not making it to be to educate people or make people think. You're making a movie for money. You're going to make it as cheap as possible. You're going to make it with popular stars. You're going to make it just like people will change the... like if Burger King thinks McDonald's has a winning formula that they don't have, or they have a new product, then, like, say they come up with, I don't know, McHot dogs. Then the next thing you know, there's going to be Burger King hot dogs. You know what I mean? Because they want to compete. So everybody's going to start doing what the other guy's doing, and they're going to try to give the people what they want to get the maximum amount of return. So everybody's going to be doing the lowest common denominator. They're going to be making things, like I said, as cheap as possible, as quick as possible. Trying to check off all the boxes and profitability, and that's the world we're in, and everybody's doing that now. And we're talking about YouTube. Somebody with a YouTube channel, I mean, I have a YouTube channel, I ain't making any money, but you have to understand, there's some of us who just want to say what we're saying, and we know, it'd always be nice to make money, but we don't do all the things like you're supposed to do, and we don't, okay, let me go get all the right lighting, and let me have my perfect makeup, and let me, just do this and do that, and put some kind of freaking filter on my videos before I put them up, and let me say, like and subscribe, you know what I mean, and make sure comment, and blah, 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 and share and like and all that, what everybody says, because that's how there's so many videos on here of how to get more subscribers, because subscribers mean once you get a certain amount of subscribers, you can get monetized, and once you get monetized, you make money, and the more subscribers you get, the more, so you do giveaways, or you do something else to get more subscribers, and there's all these ways to create money, and that's what these people do. And it's not about, okay, let me have this channel, and let me be funny, and let me be informative, or let me talk about what's on my mind. It's about, how do I make more money out of this? How do I become an entrepreneur? All these people trying to be entrepreneurs are people who probably still have to check how to spell it, but they want to make a lot of money by doing all the things you're supposed to do. And anybody who's doing that, oh, this is how you make money, oh, I'll do that, oh, that's how you make money, let me do that. This is what I'm talking about. This is the world we're in, that to me is corrupted, to me is just garbage, and it takes nobody takes responsibility. People only think about me, I need money, I need money too, but exactly at which point do you sell your soul? Do you sell it in the beginning? Do you sell it at the end? Or do you sell it when you had an investment company and costs being cut got a woman killed? Now, it should never have to get that far. I think you sold your soul a long time ago. That may wake you up to something that happened, but they're talking about tax fraud and IRS and all this stuff like that. But to me, the part of the story that's important, and everybody else will be like, oh, look at all this bad stuff they're doing, because of money, because people can only see money. But for me, it's always been wrong, because they're thinking about investments, and this is people who probably want to do investments, and they're seeing it as wrong. But they're talking about tax credits, so they're going to make it political in a weird, strange way. But in reality, the problem is that non-movie people are investing in films, and therefore the films now become like a stock, and the important thing is not the quality of the film, that people are being protected, that the workers are getting paid their fair wage, that they're having hotel rooms to sleep in so they're not exhausted, that the armorer is qualified. None of that ends up being important, because the thing is to make as much money with as little cost, to make money for the film, and therefore the people who invested in the film. And that's the problem. So for me, the problem on this set is that these people were making a movie. Kind of seemed like a vanity project. But the person in charge, the producer that we know of, Alec Baldwin, even though he was the grown-up, even though he is the older guy on the set with the most clout, should have been the one to make sure that everything was handled and taken care of, he had the attitude like, hey, I just work here. That really came across as his attitude after all the bad shit happened. But in the end, as far as people who were present, he clearly would have been the person with the most clout. Yes, there's a director who I've never heard of before. What was his name? Joel Souza, something like that. And everybody had their own job. There's still things that need to be done. There's things that in the old days a producer would really do, and it would be, Dino De Laurentiis, these big names who would really be the producer, and they'd be there, and they'd be, you'd see their hand, you'd see their brand on it, you'd see what's not there anymore, and everything's a hot mess, and everybody's trying to make money, and everybody's trying to get theirs. And it was the greed, to me, that was obvious that led to this woman's death, because it's more, this movie and a lot of movies now are more of a money-making scheme. That's what I was talking about earlier, about movies starting to look to me like a factory. And I talked about a couple directors I like who seem to be doing that right now, where they're going to spread themselves thin by branching off, and having, okay, there's these movies we've got, and now because we're popular that, we're going to make this TV show and that TV show and the other TV show, and then their talent and their shine, as I was calling it, what's special about them is going to get watered down into all this shit that you can buy, or other shows that you can watch that they can sell to all these different streaming services and make money. But then that's not what I want. I mean, like I said, my favorite film director is still Francis Ford Coppola. I haven't seen anything from the man in the longest time, but he happened to make the most amazing films in the handful of films that he did make, compared to like my second favorite film director is Woody Allen, who was very prolific, and they basically kicked him out of town. The movies were not big box office movies, but they were definitely his brand. And these are the greatest directors in the world. David Lynch, I don't know how much money David Lynch has. Twin Peaks should have been very profitable, but he never did anything for the money. These things were art, and that's why I like them, and I consider these guys brilliant. And I love them to bits for that, and I love that I have these movies to watch, and they entertain me, and they made me feel like I saw something special. You know what I mean? And I would like to like some of these other people, But as the days are going on, the people making movies are being more expendable. And like I said, I'm starting to feel like you see a director's name, and maybe they didn't really direct it. Maybe they had help. Maybe you have like a situation like the MCU. Kevin Feige is really the one who's in charge. You do have some directors that are great, like the Russo brothers, but still, they can hire. Occasionally they hire a real director, and then they end up firing them because their visions don't match, and they end up getting canned, and they bring somebody else in, and it's like, if they're that expendable, then who's really in charge? You know what I mean? So in that way, Kevin Feige is maybe the last of what the big producers used to be, in terms of, like I'm saying, the Dino De Laurentiis, those kind of guys who, before it was the studio, like Zanuck and those kind of guys. So I know I'm ranting, I know I'm talking fast, like I said, hyper from the game. I just am like, see, I was right, it's about money. But unfortunately, to me, the article is focusing on the tax credit portion of it. Like, it seems to be going after the tax credit, which there's reasons for these things, and I'm not saying it's good. But to me, what the point is, the story is about a woman got killed. A woman got killed because people weren't paying attention. These people were about making money. Okay? And just that they were trying to make money is the problem, and it was all about making money. And the article seems to be mad about the money that's made. It doesn't seem to really be about, okay, because of that, costs were cut and this woman died. I'm gonna keep scanning this article. The point is, these people running this company, and her father, their point is to make money and work within the tax code. So this whole article is really focusing on the tax code, as if Variety and everybody who reads Variety doesn't abuse the tax code to pay as few taxes as they can, to be as rich as they can. So I'm just, under provision of the CARES Act passed in 2020 to help alleviate the pandemic, taxpayers can also carry that deduction back up to 5 years. So an investor could wipe out tax liability for the current year and get a sizable refund for taxes paid in prior years. The CARES Act, look, I mean, look, I've said all these things. I've said them in roundabout ways. Maybe I'm not as exacting as this fancy article, but All the rich people are dirty. Unfortunately, I mean, I think that, like I said, going back to the people I liked watching their films, they weren't dirty. They were there to be, yes, they wanted to make big budget movies. They wanted to have a huge box office, but they wanted to entertain you. They wanted you to have a good time, and they wanted their movie to be worshipped and adored. It's now about cha-ching. It's now about making a bunch of cash and being as rich as you can. That's why when you watch a movie, you see the same person over and over again, because they're doing it like it's a formula. Maybe it started with Titanic. I think it did start with Titanic, because unfortunately that was a great, it was not one of my favorite movies, but it was a great movie. It was a big movie. It was by a visionary film director. He did want to make a lot of money, and it did win a lot of Oscars. The thing is, it made a lot of money because little girls kept going. And it was around the same time that there were pop groups like NSYNC and Backstreet Boys. And the music industry and the movie industry both said, okay, we're targeting teenagers because they have disposable income. And that's why for a long time all the music was geared towards teenagers, and all the movies had to be PG-13 because that's where all the money was coming from. So it was greedy in that way. Now that films and everything are seen as an investment, like I said, okay, you can have the #1 show like House of Cards, but the minute there's a scandal, your biggest show, your #1 show, has a scandal because its star is accused of some things, you cancel that star. You wipe them off the face of the earth because you want to protect the stock price of Netflix. You don't do it because you feel morally obligated, or you don't want that kind of guy, working for you or being associated with, well, you don't want them being associated with your company because you don't want the stock price to go down. You're not doing it because you're like this moral center or anything like that. You're like, oh shit, well, yeah, he's our biggest star, but we have to show our investors that we're doing the right thing because we don't want everybody to sell Netflix stock because ew, predator or ew, rapist or whatever the hell Kevin Spacey was. He was being charged with grabbing somebody's junk in a bar. Anyway, and being like that on the set. So they canceled Kevin Spacey within 24 hours because of the stock market. They didn't give him a chance. They didn't let the trial go because the stock prices go up every day, up and down every day, and they did not want their stock price to fall and plummet. So they took action to stop that from happening. That's why Kevin Spacey was canceled, the star of their #1 show. And that's when it became about stock prices instead of, supporting your stars or not supporting your stars, or having certain people in a film or giving them, the benefit of the doubt, or what do you call it, presumed innocent until proven guilty. None of all that went out the window because it was about the stock price. And so making this about the tax credit, I mean, yeah, that's a problem, because poor people should be getting money from the CARES Act, and people, small businesses who need, I mean, we know of plenty of businesses involved with people like I know of someone's agent who does a shitty job and didn't get him a second Superman movie, who got one of those loans that the people got for their business, because you can qualify if you only have so many employees, even if you make millions and millions of dollars every year, because you make a lot of money based on your clients making millions of dollars, and you're getting a cut, and you're invested in all these things, you've got money coming in hand over fist, you can still apply for the same loan for relief from the what was it called? I always forget which one was PPE and PPP. The PPP was a personal loan for the, alright, so people like that, people who made millions and millions of dollars in the industry, they got PPP loans, just like your local barber or your local salon who couldn't have people come in because of restrictions, and therefore their business had to shut down. These people who had like 3 employees but they were making millions of dollars a year, then they weren't going to be suffering. They took out those loans too. So even though they weren't Burger King and those kind of places that were trying to take out the loans when they didn't need them, they may still technically be a small business. They were taking out those loans. And I'm sure we all like somebody right now who somehow has a company that had to close down for a small time during the lockdowns, but their company generally makes millions and millions of dollars every year, and they took out PPP loans, and this shit's been going on. So I want Variety to do stories on that, because I don't know who. I mean, you can point to this one random lady on this one film and say, ooh, 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 because it's connected to the Alec Baldwin situation, it's a problem. But go after everybody who got money from the CARES Act. Go after everybody who got government funding that they didn't need. They got government relief when they weren't really in fucking trouble. I mean, like I said, I will never forget. I mean, I never thought that Jerry Seinfeld was a bastion of humanity or goodness or anything wonderful. But when people didn't have money and he wanted the government to bail out comedy clubs because they were shut down, I was like, why don't you freaking buy them? You know what I mean? The guy literally could have bought every comedy club in Manhattan if he wanted to. He's got, I don't know how many cars have in a garage. He's got like stories of a garage. Like more than one floor of a garage is all his cars. You know what I mean? He's so freaking loaded. If he wanted to help them out, he could. That's what I'm saying. When you've got that much money, don't go and beg the government. The government should help this. You help them, because the government should be helping poor people. If you care about something, like all around here, there were all these like smaller theaters and stuff. They were already on their last leg because people didn't want to go. People didn't have the money to go. And a lot of them got saved by the pandemic because they were then able to get these loans and stuff to keep them afloat when they were going to close anyway. You know? So if you want to support those small venues, go right ahead. Every state in the United States has a very fucking rich celebrity. I mean, Kentucky had Clooney and Johnny Depp both come from Kentucky. I mean, Massachusetts, there's so many mass holes are really, really rich in Hollywood. I mean, yeah, there's, I mean, when, like I said, you get celebrities into the hundreds of millions of dollars, I don't want to hear them say, oh, the government should do this, government should do that, the government should bail out, you know, this small club. Like, I don't know how many comedy clubs there were in Manhattan. Off the top of my head, the ones that were bigger, there weren't that many. So he could have floated them alone, or he could have bought them himself, kept them there, waited for them to open back up, and then when they opened back up, and make all that money for himself. Instead of lobbying and writing an op-ed in the New York Times saying they should do this and they should do that. There's a lot of people who I feel like they're older than me. Not a lot of them are that much older than me, but they always think government's supposed to do everything. And I'm a poor person. I come from a Democrat place, and I grew up thinking that, you know, government's supposed to give to everybody, meaning take care of things like make sure the streets are paved and the sewers work and stuff like that. And they're supposed to make sure that everybody has an education and is safe from foreign invaders. Okay, they're supposed to do that baseline stuff for everybody. If it was up to me, yeah, everybody would have health care and everybody would have free school and shit like that. That's what I would like. But in terms of the government saving private businesses that aren't going to make it, if they don't feel the need to save them, but you're sitting on basically $1 billion, you do it. You know what I mean? So there's so much. I mean, we're not talking about corruption. I like movies because I like movies. I liked entertainment. I would have loved to have been somebody like Gene Kelly, or, you know, who else? Like the people when I was a kid, they were on everything, and Triple Threats and those kind of people who could sing and dance and do. I would have loved to have been one of those people. I'm just not very talented, or I don't have any drive, or whatever the hell was wrong with me that I didn't become anything back in the day. I'm too old and decrepit now, and I understand that. But I liked entertainment because I thought it had value. I thought it inspired people. I like those movies. I like movies where people overcome the odds. I love Rocky and that kind of stuff because it does inspire people, and you know it does. So that to me was what was valuable about movies. You know, they do things for us. They stir our emotions. They make us feel for other people. They make us see the other side and live vicariously through other people and understand the plight, the human condition. You know, that was my thing for movies, and that's, some of it's gone away, some of it isn't. But if I'm going to sit here and think about the money that goes into it, I'm going to puke. You know what I mean? And if I think about the people I'd like to look up to, and I think about the people who are making the movies I like now, yeah, there's a lot of this. And like I said, I was bringing it up with a couple newer directors who, like I said, they're just spreading themselves thin. and they're making junk after junk, and that is how the money is made, and you can do that. And you can see the trends and say, okay, well, people think this is cool and people think that's cool and they think the other thing's cool. I'm going to put all that shit in the movie so that it'll make $1 billion. You can do that. Or you can say, okay, I'm going to use that popular song, I'm going to use that popular song, and I'm going to make the person's mother die of cancer, and then everybody will love the movie because they'll all relate to it, and it can be junk. But everybody's going to love it, and I know that I will collect a lot of money later on. You can do that. Fine. If it entertains people and it makes them happy and it takes them out of the doldrums, fine. But there's that other side where it's all about money. And it was clear to me that this movie shoot had this problem of being about money. But this whole article is really about the tax code and IRS. And I don't understand. I don't know if they're trying to take blame off of Alec Baldwin, they're trying to shift it. But it's clear that movies like this one are made by people who want to make a movie for whatever reasons, but the money thing leads to a lack of concern for the people who work in there, the people in the union who walked off, the safety issues that killed this woman is because they weren't trained properly. Because they were in a rush, in my opinion. It seemed chaotic, and when you have movies and every single movie has to stay on schedule, they want to stay on schedule because of money. But when it now becomes this thing where it's just basically, these movies are now just investments, or they're just there to, like I said, these people making several versions of the same movie just to make as much money as possible, several versions of the same thing, and just branching out, like having way too many franchises. When it becomes that, it's like, I can't personally think you're cool, and I can't want to see your movies because all I see are the dollar signs in your eyes. And whether it harms someone or not, it's still greed, and greed is what's killing us all. And this article, like I said, it's proving that it's about money. It's going from a different angle, but I would prefer to see Variety now go after all the people, like I said, who got those PPP loans, who should have never done it. And I'm not talking about just people at the top. I'm talking about people who were like casting directors, agents, people, anybody who they were doing all right. You know, they were making money hand over fist before, and they could easily, you know, pay the salaries of their workers for a year or so while they were, if they were not working, because a lot of the movie business kept chugging along. Those people who didn't need it but took it, and I'm sure it's all of Hollywood. That's why we'll never see that story. But yeah. So now I talked a lot, and I went blah, 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 and nobody's gonna listen to me, and nobody cares. But I just went on a tangent and a rant because unfortunately this article went to the issue and then focused on the taxes to swing it back around and make it about tax cuts and taxes for the wealthy, which is so silly because that's all Hollywood is. So to focus on this person when this is going on, you need to now do a second article where you call out all the companies doing this. And you need to find out everybody who's getting tax cuts, and everybody who's getting CARES Act money, and everybody who's getting money that they didn't need from the government when there are poor people all over the place suffering through this shit. Do that article, because that's what we need to see. But yes, greed killed Helena Hutchinson because it led to people trying to save as much as possible while making as much as possible, and therefore cutting corners and not having the quality people, the people who should have had the right credentials to make sure the set was safe. You know, hiring the right people, enough people with experience, people who would have demanded a higher salary, all that. That should have happened, and that's what killed her. And it comes from this greed, but it's not about the tax cuts. It's just not. And now I ranted for how long is this? For like 2 days? Anyway, yeah. So long-winded, I can't shut up. Now I need a nap. I needed a nap after that game. I was so tired. It exhausted me. Let me go see what Tom Brady said in the post-game thing. Greed kills us all. I wish I had some. I wish I had greed. You would think me being fat that I'm greedy. I just eat the worst food. And I don't have anywhere to go because I don't have money. That's why I'm fat. Really. But yeah.